The thinking behind ReactJS is this. Create modular code that produces dynamic front ends. This modular code is written once, then injected into different parts of your app. So you have a back end where you write the code and a front end, the presentation the user sees, in a web browser. This is key. This same thinking underpins the purpose of React Native. Create modular code that produces a dynamic front end. The only difference is the front end is what the user sees on their mobile phone as an app. ReactJS programs execute and display in a web browser like any other web page. React Native programs, they execute and display on a phone, Android or iOS, like an app you download. React Native was created to help JavaScript developers who didn't need or want to learn Java, that's the programming language of Android, or Swift, which is the programming language of iOS, but they still wanted to create apps for mobile devices. React Native apps are programmed in JavaScript, but when it comes time to compile the code for execution, React Native translates that JavaScript into the native mobile programming languages, Java and Swift. This is where native comes from. React Native is a complete framework, a compiler for JavaScript to native Java and Swift, a React API to help interact with the mobile devices you're programming on, debugging tools, of course, and the ability to easily import and integrate external code libraries. Take a quick look at how a ReactJS app gets up and started versus how a React Native app gets up and started. And so there are multiple ways. And by the way, on the left side is going to be all the ReactJS stuff. On the right is going to be all the React Native stuff. There are multiple ways to get a project up and running with ReactJS or React Native. I'm going to show you the method I use, which requires npx, which requires npm, which requires Node.js. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll have a link in the description below, or if you're watching on YouTube, a card on the top right should be popping up soon. And so you go to the command line, and you go to a folder you want to install these guys in. And so on the left, to create a new ReactJS app, we say npx create React app. I'm going to call this one JS my app. On the right side, for a new React Native app, we say npx, then we say React Native init. And then we say, let me call this guy, I don't know, n my app, like this. And so npx is going to go out there, it's going to download and install all of the necessary files to get a boilerplate basic ReactJS app and running and a React Native app up and running. So I hit enter on the left, I hit enter on the right, and I'll see you guys once this is done downloading and installing. All right, so now that we have those guys downloaded and installed, how do we execute them? How do we get them up and running? So on the left, with ReactJS, you navigate into the folder that you installed it in, I think it was cd JS my app, and we're going to do an npm start. I'm not going to hit enter just yet. On the right side with React Native, you navigate into the folder you installed it in, was nmyapp. All right, so let's get the JS guy up and running first. So npm start, I hit enter, and this is going to spin up a server on port 3000, and that server is going to host the ReactJS app, and here we go. And so it's being loaded and executed on the server, pumped out into a browser. And so the browser is showing you what the ReactJS app is. So to do the same thing for React Native, it doesn't execute in a browser. This is one of the major differences between ReactJS and React Native. ReactJS is a web app, so it executes in a web browser. React Native is a mobile app. And so to get it up and running on our computers, we have to use either a physical device, a physical phone, or you can use an emulator. So I'm going to go and open up Android Studio. There's going to be a link down in the description. And to know how to install it for this purpose, I'll leave a link. It's on the React Native webpage, Getting Started Docs or whatever. So you open up your Android. You go through all of their little things of what you have to install, SDKs, and update your path, environment variables, and all that stuff. Then we're going to go to Configure. We're going to AVD Manager, and we're going to start up an emulator. This guy right here, green arrow. So this is going to spin up you're going to see a visual representation of an Android mobile phone. And once that gets up and running, I'm going to do execute two commands on the command line. One of them is optional. I'll tell you why I'm doing it in a second. And the other one actually gets the React Native app to display on the phone. So the first, here we go. So the first command I'm going to execute, optional, but why am I doing it? It's going to be React, Native, log Android. So when you're developing your React or your ReactJS app, you're developing it in a web browser, and your web browser comes with something called, as you know, a console. So you can spit things from the back end out to the front end if you want to, I don't know, just see what a value of a variable is or send yourself a message. You don't get that in React Native. Now, there are multiple ways to debug React Native. One of those ways is to spin up a separate process or separate command prompt that acts like a console. So I'm going to take this, and actually I'm not going to do it in this PowerShell. I'm going to do it in just a regular black command prompt. So I'm just going to do CLS. We'll do a cd into n my app. That's React Native. Yeah, it is. We're going to do React Native and log Android. This is going to spin up a process that acts like a console in a web browser. And starting log kitty. Perfect. All right, to start the actual React Native app, we're going to do npx. We'll do React Native, and we'll do, I think it was start Android. No, it wasn't start. Excuse me, it's run Android, like that. And this is just going to, again, start this React Native app, and you're going to see it pop up into the emulated mobile phone right here. All right, so that's it. That's what a boilerplate React Native app looks like on this phone here. Let me expand the phone up just a bit. There we go. So that's a boilerplate React Native app running on an emulated Android phone. This is a boilerplate ReactJS app running in a web browser. This is the main difference. ReactJS programs for web browsers, React Native programs for mobile phones as an app, not as a web app. And so this desktop's really cluttered with windows that we don't need on this desktop, and just going to confuse me when I Alt-Tab. So let me just do some house cleaning. All right, so with those windows cleaned up, for the rest of this video, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to create the same page for both a ReactJS app and a React Native app. It's just going to be, I think I'll just do a button that when you click it, it's just going to increment, and that number is going to show on the screen. And through doing that, this side-by-side programming, side-by-side comparison, you guys should get a pretty good idea of the development workflow, the process, the syntax differences between ReactJS and React Native. So let me just do this side-by-side. So it's just the boilerplate file system structure of this N app is the React Native. We have an iOS and an Android folder because, like I said in the intro, you program in JavaScript, but it compiles down into actual native Android, which is Java code, or native iOS, which is Swift code. So you have these two folders, which are literally, if you come from an Android programming background, it's set up the exact same way. You have your Gradles, your apps, your main application, Javas, all of that stuff. And then this top guy right here is what, if you're coming from a ReactJS web developer background, you're more familiar with it. You got your source CSSs, all that stuff. So let me open up their app.js. This guy is that's going to be for the React Native. The left guy is ReactJS. So let me open up app.js right here. This guy's on the left, that guy's on the right. Let's just do a dual thing like this. All right, perfect. And so JS, and then N should be on this side. All right. This guy comes from I don't know what. So initially, this is what a ReactJS looks like. We have divs, headers. It's ReactJS X, but it looks exactly like HTML. You're familiar with it. If you're new to React Native, all of this it's going to look familiar, but we don't have divs and headers and images and paragraph tags. We have things like views and scroll views and texts, and there are image tags, which are literally the word image, not just img. So let me just clean up all this, and then I will start programming the front end. All right, so I've cleaned up the back end here. I've taken out all the stuff that's not really required, and on both sides, and then we have on the front end this guy here. ReactJS is on the left, of course, and React Native is on the right here. And as you can see with the React Native, in order to enter text, like in this on ReactJS, you can just enter text because it's HTML, right? And if we went to the web page, it would show up like this. You can't do that in React Native. Any text you need to render needs to be put in the text packages. Also, you have to, with ReactJS, all of these divs, H1s, images, spans, those are brought into the environment for you. With React Native, nothing's brought in. You have to import all the stuff you're going to use. If you don't import a view, you can't use the view tag here. And so you have to explicitly import things like views and texts and image tags and links and all that stuff. So it's view. Let me clean up this guy right here. That's text. And there we go, from React Native. All right, so let's build out that front end. Let me close this. So again, all I'm going to do is I'm going to build a front end that displays a counter. There's a button. We can click on the button and it increments the counter, just so you can see state being managed and front ends being managed. In order to do that, we need to convert these guys into classes, not functions. So it's the exact same thing as ReactJS for React Native. So class app, we're going to extend react.component. We're going to have a constructor like that. I'll just do props for now. You don't need to do this if you're not using the props. I'll call super props, pass the props up to the parent constructor, and then I'll have this dot state. That's equal to an object. And I'll just see a counter like this, or just count. And we'll initialize at 0. There we go. Extends, not extend. Extends. There we go. And for React Native, same thing. I'll say class app. And then we'll say extends react.component. Curly brace, not that one. And then we'll say constructor. And I forgot something. Let's see if you guys can see what I forgot. When we're working with classes, it's highlighted in red, the return. Constructor props. And then we'll do exact same thing. Super props. And then we'll do this dot state is equal to the object. And we'll initialize a count of 0. Now these guys are getting red because in a class you can't just return. You need to render the return like this. All right. There we go. And let's do the same for the guy on the left, the ReactJS program. Put the return in there as well. Let's format. Let's save both guys. All right. And let's do the front end text. So we'll just say ReactJS and then we'll do some breaks. So line breaks. And then I'll say you've clicked. And then we'll say, let's say you've clicked. Let's put it in H4, like H4. You've clicked. And we're going to be using something called this.state.count and times like that. Perfect. For the guy on the right, we'll say text React Native. Let's say, I wonder if there's BRs. I don't think there's BRs in React Native. We'll do a /n for that. So we'll put all this guy in one text block like this. So React Native /n, and then we'll say you've clicked. So you've clicked this.state.count, and then times like that. All right. Let's see what we got on the front ends. You've clicked 0 times, and you've clicked 0 times. The end's not working. No, let me see how to create a line break in React Native. All right, sorry about that. I'm just looking up how to do line breaks in React Native. So we'll do like that. Let's see if we got it. All right, perfect. We have a line break. So we have on the front end the exact same thing. ReactJS, you've clicked 0 times. React Native, you clicked 0 times. Let's code the functionality of this guy. We're gonna add a button here. So we'll say BR. We'll say button on click. We'll do this dot handle click like that, and we'll just say click me like that. Let's do the function. So it was handle click arrow function, and we're just going to set the state. This dot set state. We're going to do count plus. We're going to have to do the previous state. So previous state arrow function. Like that. All right, we're going to return an object. That object is going to be count is going to be equal to the previous state's count plus 1. So we can copy this guy, throw him over on the right side. There we go. And we need the button. But before that, we're just going to do 2 line breaks. So /n. There we go. And a button. Again, there's a button, but we need to import it. Let's see if it auto imports for me. Go up to the top. No, it doesn't. So we'll just do this button like that. All right, so we have a button. We'll do on click. Sorry, it's on press for React Native. This dot handle click. All right, let's see what we got on the front end. The title prop of a button must be a string. Title prop of a button. I see. So we can't do things like this. We need to throw it in a title attribute. So I'll do title is equal to click me. There we go. So we have a title, a little React.js thing. We have a you've clicked count times, and then we have a button that says click me. So on React.js, we're going to click, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. On the right side, React Native, we click, and we get you've clicked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so that's going to be it for this video. I just wanted to show you guys how to get what the main difference between a React.js and React Native app is, what it looks like to start one. This React.js app is ready to go. If you run npm start, you have to have Node.js, obviously. npm start on the in the folder of a React.js, it spins it up and it serves it on port 3000. You can't do the same with a React Native app because it acts as an app you download from the but the Android store. You need to build the project out into an app that gets installed through phones. So you couldn't just spin up some sort of server and host this React Native app. There's a lot more to this. We've just scratched the surface, but for the purposes of this video, just to give you a general understanding of the differences between React.js and React Native, I think this will absolutely do. So don't forget to give a like, comments down below, share the video, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and I'll see you guys in the next, I don't know what type of video. Whatever it is, it is. Take it easy, guys. Oh, I almost forgot, guys. What was the point of me telling you guys to run that first command, that log, if I didn't show you what it did or how to use it? Very simple. In a React.js app, you obviously know you can just use console.log, blah, 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 blah. And this will show up in the browser's console when we click. So let's click that button and we get blah, 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 blah. And because we spun up that extra process, that extra program, serve if you want, that acts as a console, we can put the exact same line in our handle click of React Native. And we go into our emulator, we click, and it's going to show in this little thing here, this little command prompt we set up, click me, and there we go, blah, 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 blah. And so if you ever want to debug React Native in a very simple way, just spin up the React Native log Android. There are multiple ways, but I find this one just the simplest, bare bones, easiest. Take it easy, guys.